The year was 2187. Earth had been at war for nearly a decade. The Skrillex, an alien race with technology far more advanced than anything humanity had ever seen, had invaded the solar system. Their ships were like dark shadows in the sky, each one capable of destroying entire cities with a single strike. Humanity fought back with everything it had. The best pilots, the most skilled engineers, and the strongest soldiers all joined the war effort. But no matter how hard they fought, the Skrillex were always one step ahead. Their ships were faster, their weapons deadlier, and their tactics smarter. By the time the first year of the war had passed, most of Earth's cities had been reduced to rubble. The human fleet, once proud and strong, was scattered across space, its ships broken and battered from endless battles. Earth's population was dwindling, and the few remaining forces were struggling to hold on to their last defenses. Ethan Granger, commander of Earth's remaining fleet, stood on the bridge of the Defiance, staring out at the vast emptiness of space. The stars seemed distant, cold, and indifferent. His fleet was down to only a handful of ships, all running low on supplies, ammunition, and morale. The Skrillex had destroyed nearly every major colony. Only the core cities on Earth were still standing, and even they were on the brink of falling. How much longer can we last? Jace Miller, the captain of one of Earth's few remaining warships, asked. His voice was heavy with frustration. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and running on fumes. This is it, isn't it? Ethan didn't answer immediately. He didn't need to. Everyone on the bridge knew the truth. The war was almost over, and humanity was losing. The Skrillex were relentless. They had come with one goal in mind: to conquer Earth, to strip away its resources, and to wipe out its people. Captain Granger, we have a new signal, said Liahan, the fleet's communications officer. Her voice was calm, but Ethan could hear the underlying tension. It's faint, but it's there. It's coming from the outer reaches of the galaxy. Ethan turned to her. Another Skrillex attack. No, sir. This signal doesn't match anything we've ever encountered. Lia's fingers flew across her console. It's older than anything we have. It's like a distress call, but from a time long before the Skrillex invasion. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Could it be the fleet they had all heard about in the old stories? The legendary ancient fleet, rumored to be hidden away for centuries. A fleet that could rival even the Skrillex in power. But those were just stories, weren't they? Tales passed down from generation to generation, but no one had ever proven they were true. Could it be real? Ethan asked, his voice a mixture of disbelief and hope. Lia didn't answer right away. She studied the signal, her eyes scanning the data on the screen. It's possible, but we need to verify it. The signal is too weak for me to track the exact source. Jace walked over, a skeptical look on his face. And what if it's just another trap? The Skrillex have tricked us before. Ethan nodded, but the thought of an ancient fleet, a force capable of changing the tide of the war, was too powerful to ignore. He couldn't risk passing up the chance. We don't have time to sit around. We need to follow it. This might be the only chance we have left. Jace hesitated for a moment, but finally nodded. All right, let's do it. But we better be careful. If this is a trap, we'll be walking straight into a Skrillex ambush. Lia quickly began to adjust the ship's course, and the Defiance surged forward, cutting through the darkness of space. The signal was faint, but it was getting stronger. For the first time in months, hope stirred in Ethan's chest. As the ship moved closer to the source of the signal, the crew grew more and more anxious. They had nothing to lose. If this was a trap, they would all be dead anyway. But if the signal was real, if this fleet really existed, Ethan stood by the windows of the bridge, watching the stars stretch before him. In the distance, the signal seemed to pulse, like a heartbeat, slow but steady. Earth's last hope might be hidden out there, just waiting to be found. Lia's voice cut through the silence. We're getting closer, Captain. I'm picking up strange readings. Whatever this is, it's definitely not Skrillex. Keep going, Ethan ordered. He couldn't afford to be cautious anymore. If this ancient fleet was real, it could be the game changer they needed. The tension was unbearable. Every passing moment felt like an eternity. The crew had been through so much. The endless battles, the loss of so many comrades, the fear of losing everything. But now, there was a spark, a glimmer of hope, and they couldn't afford to let it slip away. Suddenly, a voice crackled through the comm system. "Captain Granger, we have a visual. We found something." Ethan turned toward Leia. "Show me." The screen flickered to life, and a massive shape appeared on the horizon of the galaxy. An ancient ship, unlike any Earth had ever built. It was massive, with technology far beyond their understanding. This was no ordinary ship. It was the ancient fleet. "By the stars," Jace whispered, "it's real." And in that moment, Ethan knew humanity's fight was far from over. The war had seemed lost, but now, for the first time in years, there was hope. The Defiance raced through space, its engines humming with the effort of pushing forward. Captain Ethan Granger stood at the front of the bridge, staring out at the black void. The crew was tense, their eyes glued to their consoles, waiting for any sign of what lay ahead. The faint signal they had picked up was getting stronger, but still, there was no certainty about what they would find. Leia Han, the fleet's communications officer, had been working nonstop, analyzing the mysterious signal. Her fingers danced across the controls, decoding bits of the ancient message. The signal was unlike anything they had ever encountered. It didn't belong to the Skrillex or any other known alien race. "Captain," Leia said, her voice trembling slightly, "this isn't just a signal. It's a distress call. And it's ancient, much older than anything we've come across. It's been out there for centuries." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. A distress call. From who? And why was it only now reaching them? The thought of an ancient fleet, lost for so long, was almost too incredible to believe. But the signal was real, and it was growing clearer with every passing minute. "Can you trace the source?" Ethan asked, his voice steady despite the growing excitement in his chest. Leia's brow furrowed as she analyzed the data. "It's hard to say. The signal is faint, and there are a lot of interference patterns. But I think I can narrow it down. We're getting closer." "Good," Ethan said. "Keep pushing forward. We don't have time to waste." Jace Miller, the captain of one of the remaining Earth warships, was standing nearby. His arms were crossed, and his face was filled with skepticism. "We're really trusting this signal. It could be a trap. It could be Skrillex trying to lure us in." Ethan turned to him, his eyes narrowing. "We're out of options, Jace. If this is a trap, we're dead anyway. But if it's real, it could change everything. We have to take the risk." The Defiance moved silently through the vastness of space, its crew caught between hope and uncertainty. They had been fighting the Skrillex for so long, their resources drained and their numbers dwindling. This was their last chance to find something that could turn the war in their favor. Leia glanced up from her console, her expression focused. "I'm picking up something. It's faint, but it's definitely there. The signal is coming from a star system on the edge of the galaxy. It's not far, but it's going to take us a few hours to get there." "How far are we from the system?" Ethan asked, his voice low with anticipation. Leia checked the map. "Not far. Maybe 3 or 4 hours at current speed." "All right, we'll push ahead. Keep me updated," Ethan ordered. As the ship sped toward the distant star system, the crew sat in silence, each person lost in their thoughts. The ancient fleet, if it existed, could be humanity's last hope. But there was still so much they didn't know. How had this fleet survived for so long? Why had it been hidden away? And most importantly, would it be enough to stop the Skrillex? Leia continued to monitor the signal, her eyes flickering between various readings. The further they traveled, the more intense the signal became. It wasn't just a distress call anymore. It was a beacon, like a cry for help that had been unanswered for centuries. "Captain," Leah said, breaking the silence. "There's something else. The signal has a code embedded in it. It's some kind of map. It looks like directions to a specific location. If we follow it, we might find the fleet." "Do you think it's really possible?" Jace asked, his voice skeptical, but there was a hint of hope in his eyes now. Leah paused for a moment, her fingers flying across the console. "I'm not sure. But it looks like it leads to a distant part of the galaxy, far from any known human colonies. It's like nothing we've seen before." Ethan stared at the map on the screen, feeling the weight of the moment. If this is real, then we're about to find something that could change everything. But if it's a trap, Jace finished his sentence, "we won't make it out alive." The tension in the room was thick. The fate of humanity rested on the next few hours. They couldn't afford to make any mistakes. Ethan turned back to the view ahead. The stars were distant and cold, but now there was something different in the air, a glimmer of hope. They were going to find something, but would it be the salvation of Earth or a trap set by the Skrillex? Suddenly, Leah's voice broke through the quiet. "Captain, the system is just ahead. We're approaching it now." Ethan nodded. "All hands, prepare for whatever comes next." The ship entered the system's outer edge. The stars here were dim, and the planets were distant. There was no sign of life, no sign of danger, only the eerie glow of the distant stars and the strange ancient signal guiding them forward. As they moved deeper into the system, the signal grew louder, more intense. It was like a heartbeat, steady, constant, and full of mystery. Then, without warning, the Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The system was small, with only a few planets and moons, but as they approached the final planet, they saw something that made their blood run cold. A massive ship, unlike anything they had ever seen before, loomed in the distance. It was ancient, covered in strange markings and made of materials that seemed to defy the laws of physics. It was bigger than any ship in Earth's fleet, its structure glowing faintly with energy. "Is that it?" Jace whispered in disbelief. "Is that the fleet?" Leah looked up from her console. "It has to be. It's the source of the signal. We found it." But even as they gazed in awe at the ancient ship, a new thought crossed Ethan's mind. If this fleet was real, then they had no idea what else it might be hiding. Suspense. They had found the ancient fleet, but what secrets did it hold? Was this really Earth's salvation, or was it something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined? The Defiance hovered in the shadow of the massive ancient ship, its engines humming softly. For the first time in years, there was a feeling of calmness aboard the bridge. But it wasn't a peaceful calm. It was the kind of calm that came before a storm. The crew was tense, unsure of what to expect next. The ship before them was unlike anything they had ever seen. Its hull was dark and metallic, with strange symbols etched into its surface. It seemed ancient, yet somehow still functional, as if it had been waiting for someone to find it. The ship pulsed with faint energy, as if alive, breathing in the vast emptiness of space. Ethan Granger stood at the command console, his eyes scanning the ship. "This is it," he said, his voice low. "This is humanity's last hope. We need to get inside." Leah Han, the communications officer, was already working on a connection to the ancient ship's systems. Her fingers flew across her console, trying to establish a secure link. "Captain, I'm having some trouble accessing their systems. It's like their technology is locked. It's different from anything we've ever seen." Jace Miller, the captain of one of Earth's remaining warships, stood nearby, his arms crossed. "Can we get inside without unlocking it?" he asked. His voice was skeptical, but his eyes betrayed the same hope that Ethan felt. "We'll find a way," Ethan said, determination in his voice. "We have to." Leah glanced up, her face tight with concentration. "I'm going to try sending a simple communication signal. If they respond, Maybe we'll be able to open the doors." Ethan nodded. "Do it." Leah tapped a few buttons, and a soft hum filled the bridge. The signal was sent, but nothing happened. The massive ship before them remained still, cold and silent. "Nothing," Leah said, frustration creeping into her voice. "It's not even responding to our signal." "Maybe they're not listening," Jace said, stepping forward. "Or maybe they don't want to be found." Ethan thought about that. What if the ancient ship wasn't just a symbol of hope, but a dangerous weapon that had been hidden away for a reason? What if it was something that the Skrillex had feared, something they had gone to great lengths to destroy? No matter how dangerous it might be, they had no choice but to try. Earth's future depended on it. "Keep trying," Ethan said, his voice firm. "We can't give up now." Leah's fingers moved faster, her eyes scanning the complex data. "Wait, I think I found something. There's a secondary entrance, a kind of docking bay. It's hidden, but I can see it. We might be able to enter there." "Show me," Ethan ordered. The screen in front of them shifted, and a small, hidden opening appeared in the side of the massive ship. It was dark, but it looked like a secure entrance. There were no signs of guards or defense systems, at least none that they could detect. "Prepare to dock," Ethan commanded. "We're going in." The Defiant slowly maneuvered closer to the entrance, its hull scraping gently against the surface of the ancient ship. The crew held their breath as they approached, unsure if the ship would allow them to enter. But as the docking bay came into view, the entrance began to open. Slowly, a beam of light shot out from the darkness, guiding them toward the door. It was like the ship itself was welcoming them. "That's unexpected," Jace murmured, his voice tinged with awe. The Defiant docked smoothly, and the sound of metal against metal echoed through the ship. The air was still. The crew looked at each other, their eyes wide with anticipation. Ethan took a deep breath. "Stay alert, everyone. We don't know what we're walking into." The crew filed out of the bridge and into the docking bay, stepping cautiously onto the ancient ship. The air was thick with dust and the scent of something old, but there was a strange energy in the atmosphere, an undeniable hum, as if the ship were alive. The walls were covered in symbols, glowing faintly, though no one could decipher them. Leia ran her fingers along one of the walls. "It's like the ship is calling to us," she whispered. "These symbols, they almost feel familiar." "Familiar? How?" Jace asked, his voice skeptical. "I don't know," Leia replied, shaking her head. "But it's like I've seen them before, maybe in old books or legends. There's something about this place. It feels like it's waiting for us." Ethan moved forward, his eyes scanning the strange technology around them. "Keep your eyes open," he ordered. "We don't know what's inside, but whatever it is, we have to be ready for it." The group moved deeper into the ship, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The air grew colder, and the glow from the walls became brighter, casting eerie shadows across their path. Every step seemed to take them further into the unknown, and yet they felt like they were being drawn forward by something powerful. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the ship's corridors, a voice that wasn't human, but seemed familiar. "Welcome, travelers," the voice said, deep and resonant, as if coming from the very walls. "We have been waiting for you." The crew froze, their hearts pounding. Ethan's eyes darted around, trying to locate the source of the voice. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Who's there?" he demanded. The voice answered, but this time it wasn't just words. It was a command, a deep, reverberating hum that seemed to vibrate through their bones. "You have come to awaken what was lost. Prepare yourselves." The ship trembled slightly, as if reacting to their presence. Ethan's heart raced. What had they stumbled upon? And what had the ancient ship been waiting for all these centuries? Suspense. The voice had spoken. Something was awakening inside the ancient ship. But what was it? Was it a powerful ally, or something far more dangerous than the Skrillex. The air inside the ancient ship felt thick and heavy, as though something powerful was stirring just beneath the surface. Ethan Granger's heart raced in his chest as he and his crew moved deeper into the ship's labyrinthine corridors. The voice, deep and resonant, had disappeared into silence, but its words still echoed in their minds. "You have come to awaken what was lost. Prepare yourselves." Liahan, the communications officer, was the first to speak. "What do you think it means, Captain? What was lost?" Ethan glanced over at her, his mind racing. "I don't know, Leah, but whatever it is, it's waiting for us." Jace Miller, the captain of one of Earth's few remaining warships, scowled. "Waiting for us? What if it's a trap? What if the Skrillex knew about this place, and they set it up to lure us in?" Ethan's gaze hardened. "We can't think like that. We've lost too much already. Whatever's here, we need to face it head-on." They continued down the dark corridor, their footsteps echoing eerily in the quiet. The walls were covered in glowing symbols that seemed to shift as they moved past them. It was like the ship itself was alive, watching them, reacting to their presence. The deeper they went, the colder the air became, and the hum of the ship grew louder, vibrating through the floor and into their bones. Lia's voice broke the silence again. "Captain, I'm picking up strange readings. The ship's systems are coming online. It's like it's waking up." Ethan looked around, uneasy. The thought that they were disturbing something that had been dormant for so long made him feel small, insignificant. But they had no choice. This was their only chance. "Keep scanning," he ordered. "Let's find out what we're dealing with." They turned a corner and stepped into a vast chamber. The walls of the room were lined with strange machines, some of which looked like they hadn't been touched in centuries. In the center of the room stood a large pedestal, bathed in an eerie blue light. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, ancient, yet strangely modern in design. At the top of the pedestal was a small glowing orb, pulsating with energy. The air around the pedestal hummed with a strange power, and as the crew stepped closer, they felt a sudden pressure in the room, like a force they couldn't explain, a weight pressing down on them. It's beautiful," Leia whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. She reached out, her hand trembling as she approached the orb. "No, stop," Jace shouted, grabbing her arm. "Don't touch it." Leia pulled back, startled by his sudden outburst. "What's wrong with you?" It's not just a decoration," Jace said, his voice tense. "It could be dangerous. We don't know what it is." Ethan stepped forward, looking at the orb carefully. It seemed to radiate power, and the longer he stared at it, the more it seemed to call to him. It was almost as if the ship itself was urging him to make contact. "We don't know what it is," Ethan said, his voice quiet. "But we need to understand it. This could be the key to everything." Leia nodded, but there was hesitation in her eyes. "But what if it's a weapon? What if it's something we don't understand?" "We're already here," Ethan said firmly. "We need to take the risk." He stepped closer to the pedestal, his hand hovering just above the orb. The closer he got, the more the air seemed to vibrate with energy. He reached out and gently placed his hand on the orb's surface. The moment his fingers made contact, the entire room trembled. A low, rumbling sound filled the air as the glowing symbols on the walls flickered to life. The pedestal shifted beneath his touch, and a holographic display projected into the air above it, showing a map of the galaxy. The map was unlike any Earth had ever seen. It showed not just the known star systems, but regions of space that were completely unexplored. At the center of the map, there was a large red dot, Earth. Surrounding it were several other systems, each one glowing with an intense light. Leia gasped. "What is this? Is it a star chart? A map of some kind?" "It's more than that," Ethan said, his voice full of awe. "This map is showing us a path to something much bigger than we thought." Jace stepped forward, his eyes narrowing at the glowing points on the map. "This could be the fleet's network," This map could show us where they've been hiding all this time. Ethan nodded. And maybe where they're going next. Suddenly, the room shook violently, and the lights flickered. The humming sound from the ship grew louder, almost deafening, as though the entire structure was coming to life. Ethan instinctively stepped back from the pedestal, and the map flickered before disappearing completely. "What's happening?" Leah asked, panic creeping into her voice. "I don't know," Ethan said, but even as he spoke, he felt something change in the air. The ship was no longer just a relic. It was awake, and it was reacting to their presence. Then the voice returned. "The awakening is complete. Welcome, travelers. You are now part of the legacy of the ancients." The voice was no longer distant or impersonal. It was as if it was speaking directly to them. The walls of the room shimmered, and a doorway at the far side opened, revealing a long hallway leading further into the depths of the ancient ship. The crew stood frozen, unsure of what to do next. What had they awakened? What had they uncovered? Then the voice spoke again. "Follow the path. Only those who are worthy may proceed." The door to the hallway stood open, but the crew didn't move. They had come this far, but what awaited them beyond that door could change everything. Suspense. The ship had awakened, and now the crew was part of something much bigger than they had imagined. What would they discover in the depths of the ancient ship? And could they handle what lay ahead? The crew of the Defiance stood frozen at the open doorway, the eerie glow of the ship's interior casting long shadows across their faces. The ancient voice had faded, but its words still hung heavily in the air. "Follow the path. Only those who are worthy may proceed." Ethan Granger took a deep breath, his heart pounding. He had no idea what lay ahead, but the urgency in the voice was impossible to ignore. The ancient ship had awakened, and it was guiding them toward something powerful. "We have no choice," Ethan said, breaking the silence. "We have to go through." Liahan, the communications officer, gave a hesitant nod. "But what if we're not worthy? What if this ship has been waiting for something, or someone else?" "Maybe it's not about worthiness," Jace Miller said, his eyes dark with suspicion. "Maybe it's about survival. We're not just dealing with a lost fleet here. This ship could hold the key to everything. If we don't take the risk, we might lose it all." Ethan glanced over at Jace, then to Leah. Both of them were right in their own ways. The future of humanity was on the line. There was no turning back. "Let's go," Ethan said firmly, stepping into the hallway. The rest of the crew followed, their footsteps quiet but heavy with the weight of uncertainty. The hallway stretched endlessly before them, its walls lined with strange symbols that pulsed with light. The deeper they went, the more the ship seemed to hum with life. It was as though the very walls were alive, responding to their presence. As they walked, the crew couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every turn, every step seemed to echo in the vast, hollow corridors. It was unsettling. Lia's voice broke the silence. "Captain, the ship's systems, they're opening up more sections. It's like it's revealing itself to us." Ethan glanced at her. "Revealing itself how?" Leah tapped her console, her eyes scanning the data. "The walls. They're showing us a map of the ship. It's as though the ship is alive. It's adapting to us." Jace frowned. "The living ship. That sounds like a nightmare." Ethan didn't reply, but the thought echoed in his mind. Was this ship truly alive? Or was it something far more dangerous than they had imagined? The hallway eventually opened into a vast chamber. It was enormous, larger than any room they had ever seen. At the far end stood a massive control center, filled with consoles and strange devices that hummed with an ancient energy. Lia's eyes widened. This looks like the heart of the ship." Ethan took a step forward, his gaze fixed on the glowing panels. "This is where we'll find the answers. This is where the fleet's secrets are hidden." The crew stepped into the room cautiously. As they approached the center, the walls around them seemed to come to life, shifting and changing, as though they were being welcomed into the ship's very core. Suddenly, the voice returned. "You have come far, travelers. But are you prepared to face the truth?" Ethan stiffened. "What truth? What is this place?" The voice replied, its tone almost sad. "This is the heart of the fleet. Here, the ancients made their final stand. They sealed themselves away to protect what remains of their power. But they were not alone. The Skrillex know of this place, and they have been searching for it, just as you have." The walls flickered, revealing images of the past, images of a once great fleet, powerful and proud, now lost in time. The ancients had been a race of advanced beings, their technology far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. They had fought a war long before humanity's time, and their enemies were the Skrillex, the same Skrillex that now threatened Earth. They fought the Skrillex, Leia whispered, her voice filled with awe. And they lost. They sealed themselves away. And now we found them. Ethan's heart raced. The ship had been hiding its secrets for centuries, but now it seemed to be offering them the key to defeating the Skrillex. If they could unlock the fleet's power, they might stand a chance. Suddenly, a new image appeared on the wall, a vision of a massive weapon, something that could change the course of the war. It was an ancient weapon, powerful enough to destroy entire fleets in a single strike. But it was hidden deep within the ship, and only those worthy could access it. "This is it," Ethan said, his voice low. "This is what we've been searching for." Jace looked at him, a mixture of disbelief and excitement in his eyes. "But can we actually use it? What if we're not worthy? What if the Skrillex are already on their way?" "We'll figure it out," Ethan said, determination in his voice. "We have to." As they moved closer to the control center, the ship seemed to respond to their presence. The air grew thick with energy, and the room pulsed with a low rhythmic hum. The ship was alive, and it was guiding them toward something powerful. But then the voice spoke again, this time with urgency. "You have come far, but the path ahead is fraught with danger. You must choose. Only one can control the weapon. The others will be left behind." Ethan's heart sank. "What do you mean? We can't choose just one person." The voice was silent for a moment. Then it spoke again, its tone final. "The weapon chooses its master. Only one may wield its power." The crew stood in stunned silence. The weight of the decision was unbearable. Only one of them could wield the ancient weapon that could turn the tide of the war. The others would be left behind. Ethan glanced at his crew. They had come this far together, but now they would have to face the hardest choice of all. Suspense. The ship had revealed the weapon, but the path forward was fraught with danger. Only one could control its power. Who would be chosen? And what would it mean for the future of Earth? The room was heavy with silence, and the weight of the voice's words pressed down on the crew like a physical force. Only one person could wield the ancient weapon. The others would be left behind. Ethan Granger stood frozen, his heart pounding in his chest. The truth had come crashing down on them all at once. They had come so far, found the ancient ship, uncovered its secrets, but now the path forward was unclear. The decision lay with them. Jace Miller's face was a mask of disbelief. "What do you mean, only one? We've been fighting this war together. We're a team. We can't just." "We don't have a choice," Ethan interrupted, his voice steady despite the storm of thoughts racing through his mind. "The weapon is a force we can't even begin to understand. If we don't make the right choice, everything we fought for will be for nothing." Liahan, the communications officer, looked pale. "So one of us is supposed to wield this power, but who decides? Who's worthy enough?" Ethan glanced at each of them. Jace, who had led the human fleet through so many battles. Leia, whose intelligence had guided them through countless challenges. And himself, the one who had always made the hard decisions. But none of them felt worthy. They were just survivors, just humans, caught in the middle of a war that they never chose. A low hum filled the air, and the walls of the control center flickered to life again. A hologram appeared before them, showing the weapon, a massive glowing structure with tendrils of energy wrapping around it. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, a fusion of ancient technology and raw power. But as the hologram expanded, a message flashed across the screen. Only one may control the weapon. The others will remain here. The path forward is sealed for those who are unchosen. Laya's breath caught in her throat. The others will be left behind. What does that mean? Ethan felt his pulse quicken as he read the message again. It means if we don't choose right, we won't be able to leave. Whoever isn't chosen will be stuck here, on this ship, forever. Jace clenched his fists. That's insane. We can't just choose one person and leave the rest behind. What if we all need the weapon? What if it's too dangerous for just one of us? The room seemed to grow colder as the ship's hum intensified. The voice returned, this time with finality in its tone. The weapon's power is too great for more than one. The choice must be made. Only the one who is truly worthy can wield its energy. The others must remain. Ethan's eyes shifted to the pedestal, where the weapon was displayed. He knew they had no time to waste. The Skrillex were coming. Earth's future depended on their next move. But how could they choose who would bear this incredible burden? Maybe the ship will tell us, Leah said quietly, her voice shaking. Maybe it knows what we need. Ethan turned to her. What do you mean? The ship has guided us this far. Maybe it has a way of telling us who the weapon should choose. Leah stepped forward, looking at the holographic map. The ancients must have had a way of determining who was worthy. Maybe we don't have to make the choice ourselves. Jace's eyes narrowed. Or maybe it's testing us, seeing if we'll pick the right person. What if the ship's not on our side? The uncertainty in Jace's voice sent a chill through Ethan. Was the ship truly an ally? Or had it been waiting for someone else to awaken it? Someone the ancients had chosen long ago. Without another word, Ethan stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the pedestal. The air hummed with energy as he approached the weapon. His hand hovered over the glowing surface, feeling the power within. It called to him, urging him to take control. But something inside him hesitated. Could he really make this choice? Could he be the one to wield such power? He had fought alongside his crew, led them through battles. But this was different. Do you feel it? Laya's voice broke his thoughts. She was standing next to him now, her eyes wide with awe. Ethan nodded slowly. Yes. But it's too much. I'm not sure I can. I think it's telling you something, Leah said. Maybe we're not supposed to make the choice at all. Maybe the weapon chooses on its own. The hum from the weapon grew louder, and for a moment, Ethan felt something shift in the air. It was subtle at first, but then it became undeniable. A pulse of energy shot through the room, and the weapon seemed to respond, glowing brighter than before. It wasn't choosing him. It was choosing someone else. Ethan stepped back instinctively, his heart racing. It's not me. It's not me. Jace and Leia looked at each other, then at the pedestal. They, too, could feel the energy shifting in the room. The weapon was choosing. But who? Suddenly, without warning, a bolt of energy shot out from the pedestal, striking Jace directly in the chest. He staggered backward, his body glowing with the same energy as the weapon. The room filled with a deafening roar as the power surged through him, overwhelming him. Jace! Leia screamed, but he didn't fall. He stood, his body glowing with a fierce light. The hum of the ship grew louder, as if the weapon was now bonded with him. Jace looked down at his hands, his eyes wide with shock and realization. It's me, he whispered, voice trembling. I'm the one it chose. Ethan stared at him in disbelief. The weapon had chosen Jace. He had never imagined this moment. And yet, it was happening. The voice echoed again, its tone filled with finality. The path is now clear. The weapon has chosen. The others must remain. Ethan's heart sank, But there was no time for regret. They had come this far. Earth's survival depended on Jace now. There was no turning back. Suspense. The choice had been made. Jace Miller, the captain of their warship, had been chosen by the ancient weapon. But what did this mean for the future of the crew? And for Earth itself? Could Jace handle the power, or would it consume him? The ship trembled with an intensity that shook the very foundation of the Defiance. It wasn't just a tremor. It was the awakening of something ancient and powerful. Ethan Granger watched as Jace Miller stood, his body glowing with the energy of the weapon. The rest of the crew stood still, unsure of what to do. Jace's face was a mixture of awe and fear as he felt the power coursing through him. The ancient weapon had chosen him, but the reality of the responsibility was overwhelming. He could feel the energy, the sheer force, and it was almost too much to control. "Jace, are you all right?" Laya Han's voice trembled as she took a step forward, concern in her eyes. Jace blinked, his hand shaking as the glowing energy pulsed around his body. I think so," he said, his voice unsteady. "But this power, it's like nothing I've ever felt before." Ethan took a step closer, his voice firm. "You need to control it, Jace. We don't have much time. The Skrillex are on their way. If we don't stop them now, Earth will be lost." Jace looked up, his eyes filled with determination. "I won't let that happen. I'm going to finish this. We're going to win this fight." The hum of the ancient ship was growing louder, and the walls around them seemed to respond to Jace's energy. It was as if the ship was in tune with his every thought, every move. The weapon had bonded with him, and now he was the key to their survival. "We're going to need more than just the weapon," Leia said, her voice tense. "The Skrillex have already destroyed so much. We can't fight them alone." Ethan's eyes hardened. "We won't fight them alone. The ancient fleet is still out there, waiting for us to call on them." The map. He looked over at the holographic display that had guided them through the ship. It showed us the way. Suddenly, the room darkened, and the ship's systems came alive once more. The map from before appeared again, but this time, it wasn't just showing the ancient fleet's location. It was showing the Skrillex fleet, too. The Skrillex were closing in on Earth, and fast. Ethan's voice was calm but urgent. "We need to find a way to activate the fleet. They'll help us. The ancients knew how to fight the Skrillex. We need to unlock that knowledge." Jace clenched his fists, the power of the weapon surging through him. "Let's do it. Let's take the fight to them." The room shook again, and the door behind them opened, revealing a vast hangar filled with ships. But these weren't just any ships. These were the legendary warships of the ancient fleet. They were massive, their dark hulls glinting with strange symbols. The weapons on them were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. "They're here," Leia whispered in awe. "The fleet is ready. It's waiting for us." Ethan nodded, but his face was hard. "Now we just need to make sure we're ready to fight." Jace took a deep breath, the power of the weapon pulsing around him like an electric current. He had no idea how he was going to control it, but he didn't have a choice. The Skrillex were coming, and humanity's survival depended on him. As they stepped onto the deck of one of the ancient ships, Ethan turned to his crew. "This is it. We've come this far. There's no turning back now. We fight together." The hangar doors opened, and outside, the vast emptiness of space stretched before them. The Skrillex fleet was visible in the distance, massive ships that looked like monstrous beasts, ready to destroy everything in their path. "We'll take the fight to them," Jace said, his voice filled with resolve. "We've got the ancient fleet on our side, and with this weapon, we can do the impossible." As the crew prepared for battle, the ship's systems came alive, and the ancient vessels began to hum with energy. The ships of the ancient fleet were waking up, just as the weapon had. They were ready to fight, to defend Earth. Ethan looked out the viewport, his heart pounding in his chest. The Skrillex were advancing quickly, but they were no match for the power that now stood on Earth's side. All ships, prepare for battle. Ethan commanded. Let's show the Skrillex that humanity is not finished.